There is a special word which designates the fundamental Buddhist idea of the character of the universe in which we live. And this Sanskrit word is the Dharma Dhatu. The word Dharma has many meanings in Sanskrit. Sometimes it's doctrine, sometimes it's method, but here I would say it means something like function. And Dhatu means realm or world. So this is the doctrine of the whole functioning of the universe. And it gives us a picture of a universe which is completely relativistic. What does that mean? If you stand on the earth, it seems to you that the moon is moving. If you stand on the moon, it seems that the earth is moving. And there's a Zen poem which says, "Empty-handed I go, and yet a spade is in my hand. I walk on foot, and yet I'm riding the back of an ox. When I cross the river, the bridge flows, and the water is still." In other words, I don't know what an empty hand is, except in relation to a hand with something in it. I don't know what it is to walk on foot, unless it's in relation to some other kind of transportation, such as riding. And I don't notice motion, unless it's a relationship between something that's still and something that's moving. And so where you've got an idea of the universe in which everything is relative to everything else, you have, as it were, a scheme of interconnections between innumerable points, reminiscent of a spider's web with dew on it, or the image of Indra's net, which is a tremendous collection of jewels, all linked together in such a way that each jewel contains the reflection of all the other jewels. And in this sense, then, Buddhist doctrine is saying that our universe is so interconnected in all its parts that one part of it, so-called, can exist only in relation to all the others. There is no separate center in which any motion or activity originates. All activity that occurs at any spot, as it were, originates over the whole system. We can't base a social order on a completely relative conception of the world. And therefore our social life depends, as it were, on practicing certain deceptions. The Western philosopher Weihinger invented the term the philosophy of as if. And all social order and communication depends upon certain deceptions being practiced. And I would say these deceptions are as follows. The first deception is that there are things. That is to say, that these vortices or nexuses in the total pattern of the universe are real and separate from each other and can be treated as such. In other words, to describe, to talk about the world, we have to break it down into various different units. Just in the same way, if you're going to eat a chicken, you have to chop it up in sections, and it's easier to eat that way. But the cut-up fryer doesn't come out of the egg. It isn't found in nature. So the pretense that things are separable from each other is necessary in order to think and talk about them. The next thing we have to pretend is that there are agents. That, in other words, the human individual is a separate thing, originating action and responsible for it. But in this conception of the completely relative universe, action does not originate at any particular spot. It's a property of the whole field, as it were, focusing action at these spots. But for purposes of social intercourse, we have to pretend that we are individual agents from whom action comes. And this pretense is enhanced by the third thing, the rewards and punishments. This is terribly important. The reward for regarding oneself as a responsible agent and acting accordingly is the promise of something good coming in the future, whether it be in this life or whether it be in some other life, so that we are constantly attracted and kept at this game based on these three deceptions. Societies have always invented a complicated system of post-mortem retribution, various heavens and hell, whether they are permanent or impermanent. This system of deceptions, we could say creative deceptions, I don't want the word deception to have a bad flavor, is inculcated into us in childhood in every culture in the world. And it leaves a permanent mark on us. The mark being that we come to believe that these three things are real. Having accomplished the job of creating a social discipline and of getting human beings to step the right paces, to dance, as it were, to the tune played by the piper. Having done that, they are burned into us. And so we come to feel that we really are separate things, that we are agents and sources of action, that we are actually responsible for what we do, that there is that ego thing inside us, which is the initiator, the doer, the will behind all action. What Zen is basically is a way of freeing human beings from those deceptions, returning them to the vision of the world in its complete relativity.